So in your real estate team, you can't rely on agents consistently growing by 15, 20, 30, 50% year over year. That's just not sustainable. It's not reasonable to rely on that for your business. In addition to that, you can't rely that agents will stay put, right? As evidenced by John's leaving the team, right? And so what that means is we have to consistently be recruiting, having that messaging out there and having processes around it. And there needs to be a heavy emphasis on that. And that's why the biggest companies in the world, including the company you're at, their main focus is recruiting, right? And it's not because they need to be the biggest or anything like that to satisfy someone's ego, although I'd argue he has a bit of an ego. Um, but it's a healthy one. But the the reality of all that though is it's because the correlation between volume, revenue, and ultimately profitability is really high. It's 80+% on agent count, right? It's correlated to agent count. So you're always going to have that challenge. So the other thing about that though is the second piece, which is motivation. We talked a little bit about declining motivation and all that. Well, there's a couple ways to motivate people, move them towards pleasure or move them away from pain. And so we have to sit there and think about, and we know this on average, it's about 9 times more motivating to avoid pain than move toward
Yep.
pleasure.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
There's maybe 2 people on our team that are motivated by pleasure.
Yep. Everyone else needs to be pain. So there's multiple ways or multiple levels of pain or multiple like areas of pain, right? One is going to be company, or actually the first one is going to be personal, right? So personal pain. What happens if I'm not able to hit my income goals this year? What happens to my family? What happens to my house? What happens to my life? What happens to my self-esteem?
And
Right?
that's
All
a
these
good
things.
individual one-on-one conversation
That's,
because then you can really dive into the weeds.
yeah. And so our target there is for the next 6 weeks, we're going to sit down one-on-one with these people. And one of the first conversations we have to have is, and by the way, I'm also going to do this with any mid-level managers like agent advisors or pod leaders or squad leaders or whatever, and sit there and teach them how to have this same kind of conversation. And the conversation is helping them understand the connection between today's activities and the big thing that they want, right? And so we'll go through the talk track. And we've been through the talk track, but we'll revisit it again. It's the, hey, commitments, right? We got to get really clear on how helping people understand the goals that they want need to be supported by specific commitments. The specific commitments, though, have to be revisited and audited regularly using the right conversation framework, right? So that's what we talked about. Like, hey, the good thing about commitments is they're black and white. You either did or you didn't, right? Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently in the realm of all things possible? What could it have gotten done? If it could have gotten done, okay, great. Well, what would have had to be sacrificed or what inconvenience would you have had to suffer in order to see that through and see that happen? Okay, now what's the big thing you want in your life? Okay, great. Is that inconvenience or that sacrifice worth suffering given the big thing that you want? Right? That, because what that's doing is that's helping them connect. When I blow off lead generation today, when I blow off lead generation tomorrow, I'm actually sacrificing the big thing, not today's productivity. Right? So there's that piece to it. The other piece is we have to look inside the organization. What kind of sticks and carrots do we have? I mean, the reality is that's how people respond, right? And as leaders, it's actually our responsibility to understand what levers we can pull to motivate people, right? And so you already said a lot of the carrots aren't motivating, okay? What sticks do we have in our arsenal? Now, before you give me your specific sticks, there are 2 big ones that are pretty common. One of them I don't think you guys necessarily have, though. One is
Leads.
leads. Yep, exactly. That's one. The other is other people. When I do this on a regular basis, when I would walk out of my office after getting off a Zoom call or a first phone call, I just booked an appointment with a real estate agent. And I walk out and I go, hey, Rhonda, it was super nice chatting with you today. I'm super excited for our appointment tomorrow to learn a little bit more about you, your business, and see if we're going to be the right fit. I'm really looking forward to it. Make it a great day. Send that. And I do that in front of my agents. Here's what I'm letting them know. If you are choosing not to do your job, don't worry. I've got other people that are here that are coming that will. right? And so recruiting is actually a motivating factor for more than one reason, though. The recruiting is a motivating factor because one, it's telling you, and as much as I don't believe this on a human individual basis, I do believe this in a business environment. You are not irreplaceable, right? If I have to have a rock cry out, I will make it happen, right? That's one thing. The other thing that it does is new energy motivates people. When you have somebody that just showed up and they're out there cranking calls and doing everything and participating at the highest possible level, other people get inspired or threatened, and I'm okay with both. Right? If they feel threatened, they usually rise to the occasion. If they feel inspired, they show up and rise to the occasion. I'm okay with either one. So recruiting really, a lot of people say recruiting solves all problems, but they stop there and don't break down all the multi-dimensional ways that it does actually solve those problems, right?